Salut, chat! Da, m-am luat cu World of Warcraft-ul. Big mistake, că am stat după aceea o groază. Uh, Vreau să facem... Bine, vreau întâi o secundă să pun aici doar 3, totuși să nu sună... 4 decibel gain, să nu sune foarte tare. Să stăm undeva în yellow zone. Am făcut niște schimbări să se audă overall mai tare tot și ce vorbesc și jocul când o să băgăm Darksiders, nu știu dacă băgăm în seara, să vedem. Parcă ar merge după noaptea de reacție să facem și o noapte de gaming. Uh, Din păcate, rollback-ul ăla tot nu a rezolvat în aia de problemă. Secunda asta să-l dăm undeva pe la minus 15, zic eu. Cam așa. Și hai să deschidem pe YouTube să vedem ce avem în watch. Încercam iar să fac debugging, să văd. Dar nu, aceeași problemă ori de la drivere. Am piș în ele. Cu curul programează ăștia, din păcate, chat. Ce mă enervează. 2 ori ar crasha tot PC-ul. Ia mă găsim Nvidia 500. Ia să dăm window capture. Așa. 560.70 backcheck. Asta e altceva. Search. În sfârșit, bă, a pus search. Cât a pus search? Reddit introduces search. De când avem chestia asta, mă? Nu știu, în fine. Deci ce avem aici? Ups. Backcheck. Așa. Mă. Smart nu e nimeni în tot asta. Mă mir. Crash. Restart. What? Dar să-și la restart și nu înțeleg, bă. Nu-mi place. Nu zice nimic. Hai să citim pe forum oficial. Sau pe asta. Ia să vedem. Backcheck. Zice cineva. Ok. Restart. Mm. Burnt out. Mm. Mine cred că e ok cablul de CPU ăsta, așa. Oh, trebuie să iau telefonul, să fac vină, dar observ ceva. În afară de extrem de mult praf, nu pare să fie absolut nimic înăuntru. Nu știu ce naiba, chat. What the fuck. Nici nu găsesc asta la mulți. Nu știu ce face doar în momente specifice. Ia să citim, că știu că era un forum oficial nu ăla de pe Reddit. Aici, nu știu că zice ceva. Vedem că nu. Hm. Stați că intru separat pe forum. Asta. Asta. Pardon, chat, cred că v-am scos urechile. Trebuie ca să mă obișnuiesc cu compresul ăsta, cum funcționează chestiile. Search. Asta, randomly crashing. Mai zice altcineva ceva de backcheck? Da, pe evident. Mi-a răspuns unul, i-a zis mai dea niște chestii, ceau, nimic în plus. Aia și picioarele. Asta vreau și eu să-l găsesc, dar e așa prost organizat site-ul ăsta, mâncați-aș sufletul, ce interfață de căcat. Oh, ce mi-a făcut, mă, asta 560 feedback. Asta, feedback thread. Așa. Și aici vreau să căutăm. Nu asta vreau să căutăm. Ce pista mă, Sima. Merge. Bullshit. Vedem că nu găsește nimica. Mai se plânge lumea că nu știu ce dracu versiune să mai bag. Ah, la 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 la. Mă, ce mi-aș lua expansion al guild să joc niște guild sănătos. Scurez dacă mai face. Era tipul ăla pe YouTube. Cum îl chema? De face la GP-uri. Elementalist. Ia cum arată mai Elementalistul cu spear. Holy shit.
All your abilities tend to revolve around this particular skill and will allow you, if you reach certain requirements, to use an even bigger ability. So this etching will last for 7 seconds and it also has a flip over skill of its own attunement's attack. You will use 3 abilities inside this etching to level that specific attack up.
Își pune și chat totuși.
So that's how the spear is kind of formatted in
Toxin,
terms of
edit.
its 1 through 5 abilities. But let's
Punem un chat în dreapta dacă putem.
First. So for fire attunements you have Flame Spear. This is your strike damage oriented focused attack and it does some area of effect damage to those who are around your target that you hit. Your second attack is Blazing Barrage, which is an AoE as well. It does a little bit of burning, nothing to sustain itself in terms of a condition damage build, but you have certain abilities and traits that will deal more damage if you are striking a foe with burning. Your third ability for fire is Seed, which increases the damage of your next spear attack, not including your auto attack, by 20%. This also gives you Might and Fury, giving you even more damage. Your fourth ability is Meteor. It's fairly straightforward. You deal so much more damage to a target inside the inner ring, but you still deal a decent amount of damage to those in the outer ring. Finally, what you might have seen is Etching Volcano. This creates a spell circle around you, giving you might while you stand in the area. And
streaming tools overlays.
3 abilities, you will enhance your Volcano ability into, I wonder if it has a different name. 3 Lesser Volcano into Regular Volcano with a very different effect.
Și astea sunt altfel. În astea puteam, dar în astea elemente cum adăugăm?
Dealing damage to enemies around the location. Fire is your strike damage oriented
overlays versus elements.
Spear for Elementalist is more strike damage oriented. Your second attunement that we're going to be talking about is Water. Now for Water, it usually has the theme of being a bit more self-healing, self-sustain, particularly when you are talking about a DPS weapon, and with the spear it's no different. So
nu răspunde bă nimeni nimica.
Straightforward spear damage, but it will also heal you if you strike an enemy. Your second attack with its AoE is the line attack. This is Ice Beam. This will channel a beam of ice between you and your target, meaning if you line it up properly, you'll be able to strike multiple foes in its path. This will also apply Chill to to slow down enemies to keep them at
Păi și
bay.
ce
Your
fac că
third
nu...
attack is your self buff.
Și
However,
dracu,
this
mă.
attack also comes with a movement effect. It's called Ripple. You'll evade attacks and leap or spin to a location, healing yourself. This
Chat.
means that your next attack that you use will have a reduced cooldown, and that's the unique buff that comes with Ripple. We'll try this out here in just a second once it comes off a cooldown. We'll do here, and then use your second attack. And as you can see, its cooldown has been reduced. I wonder if it says, yeah, recharge rate
Stai că nu
reduced
face
by
nimic asta.
33%. Up, we'll talk about Undertow. This is your inner circle, outer circle attack. Undertow will pull enemies to the center. If it's just something to add on to the damage over time. The bleed does.
Oi. Și că aveam și astea de overlay-uri. Royal Purple. Ba, dar nu înțeleg la astea cu elemente cum pot să editez și să adaug. Frate, mă interesează un chat să adaug. Caut odată stream elements, nu elements beta. Oh. Auto chat.
Let's quickly set up the stream elements.
Chatbot, nu mă interesează chatbot.
For you, you can change.
Nu, dar folosește overlay.
Having a chat overlay black box, and we want to do now.
Asta tot asta.
For this black box.
Folosește.
Tons of
Da, chiar așa era făcut asta, bă, frate. Unde ești? Toxin? Să n-aibă nimic în dreapta? Trebuie chestia asta. A, ba da, ce... Uite. Chat dar cum pun chat-ul efectiv? Că nu e chat-ul efectiv. Ia, pun un punct aici. No, evident că n-apare. Și astea cum că v-ați făcut? Ia că facem altceva de element text aici și vedem aici. Găsim ceva. Available data. Follow, cheer, rate, subscribe, merge, purchase, tip, hype, train, ride, cheer, absolut nimica. Deci nu și video. Nope. Decât dacă fac separat și peste asta pun aia, papula. Nu știu. Bullshit. Și asta. Try now, ia. Aia, interesant. Și ce module mai are chat-ul ăsta? Void key, chat alerți. Play roulette. Cool. Da, nu știu, nu face nimeni. Nu prea zice lumea nimica. Bine, în părerea mea, mulți nici nu cred că știu să intre acolo și să inspecteze un pic dumpul ăla. Este 56.12. Hai că o să ajungem chat cu driverul de lansare să mor eu. Ia uite, și descarcă automat ultimul. Scria de el că îl updatez. Sper să o repare la urmă. În fine. Calitatea softului de astăzi. Hai să vedem chat. Unde avem, mă? Că nu mai știu. Vizionează mai târziu. Avem multe de văzut. Să fac și o mică pauză de pișare, că nu mai pot. Asta, Totally Accurate Summary of Path of Exile lor. Dar nu vreau să fac. Bă, da, e ok, că mi-apare în dreapta, e ok. Ok, bărbă. Bă, dar sunt incapabil să-mi aduc aminte să dau și recordul pe pauză ca să ne așteptați și voi că vă revedeți pe YouTube fazele. Ah, ce bun ar fi un stream deck să apăs acolo. Poc, poc. Ia mă, Toma n-are așa ceva? Parcă da, că o să-l pun pe lista aia. N-am are, lol. MK2 și mai Excel-ul care n-am nevoie de ăsta, e imens. MK2-ul pare ce trebuie. Nu să am destule USB-uri acum. Așa, stați așa o secundă. Ok, pare în regulă. Imediat. Ok, gata. Be right back, cum eu și o apă imediat. Da, pare să se audă ok, am dat să verific, cred că e în regulă așa, nivelul ăsta. Oh, avem de luat chestii. Mamă, lol, ia stau. Să dau o poză la ecran cuiva cu wishlist-ul ăsta nebun. Lol. Imediat acum am eu. Era batat geamul. Ok. Da, coste ceva, dar... Mamă, dacă mi le iau pe toate și tot ok. Rup. Rup. Așa, deci... bine, al de la monitor ar fi esențial. N-am rezolvat aici nimic critical. Da, file generation succeeded. Ia, că sunt curios. Dacă e de la aceeași chestie. Trebuie să pornim ca admin. Dăm frumos. Hai mă. Ia să că am zis că verific și bug check-ul ălalt open tip. Penultimul era, da, open. Și după la view comment dăm analyze. Hai mă. Așa. Ia să vedem aici.
Okay, so once upon a time, way back, there was this place called the Rayclast, right? It was basically a dumpster fire of epic proportions, and I'm here to tell you why. First off, there's Calandra, a mysterious woman with a deep passion for reflections, hence the coveted mirror of Calandra, who was basically the first being to exist in all of Rayclast. We found her was disappointment, found out crystal-obsessed dudes with the world's first startup, aka the Primevals, like All and On, but they didn't last long because the Lightless, otherwise known as these Abyss guys, showed up and wiped them out by introducing them to the color green. Fast forward a bit and you've got a dumpster fire of... Okay, so once upon a time, way back, there was this place called the Rayclast, right?
Hai mă. Iar nu mai apare mă Chrome-ul printre Windows, dă încolo de treabă. Așa.
Right? It was basically a dumpster fire of epic proportions, and I'm here to tell you why. First off, there's Calandra, a mysterious woman with a deep, deep passion for reflections, hence the coveted mirror of Calandra, duh, who's basically the first being to exist in all of Rayclast. We found her trapped in a lake, and to everyone's disappointment, found out she was a bird. Then we got some clay-loving and crystal-obsessed dudes with the world's first startup, aka the Primevals, like All and On, but they didn't last long because the Lightless, otherwise known as these Abyss guys, showed up and wiped them out by introducing them to the color green. Fast forward a bit and you've got a couple of different factions, the Asmeri and the Maraketh. They weren't doing so well in this abyss-infested world, and well, the Maraketh decided to do something about it. They weren't quite strong enough on their own though, but thankfully the three sisters, Solarai, Lundara, and some chick with a veil called Viridi gave them a hand and pushed the Lightless back underground. Yeah, Solarai and Lundara are pretty much Solaris and Lunaris as we know them. The three sisters would also go on to create the Wildwood, a safe space for the Asmeri people to hide out in while all this crazy shit was going down. Shortly after that, a woman gave birth to two twin boys, Sin and Innocence. Legend has it that Innocence was basically a goody two-shoes and Sin was kind of a dick, and ultimately Sin was burned at the stake for stealing bread or something. While he was roasting over an open fire, Sin turned to ash, which went freaking all over everybody watching, and they all lost their minds and turned on one another. Innocence, desperately wanting to become a godly being, used this opportunity and chaos to get a bunch of subscribers over in Oriath, a big island off of Rayclast coast, and grow his following there, and eventually succeeded and became a god, at the cost of Sin also being promoted to a divine being. Also, turns out none of that legend necessarily really happened and might have just been propaganda posters Innocence put up in order to reach his goal of godhood. Not so innocent after all, are we? Anyways, Sin was rightfully pissed and planted a superpowered seed called the Dark Ember underground that basically turned everything into a monster-infested nightmare. This was the creation of the Beast, and all of PoE's thaumaturgical magic as we know it. Also, the Beast managed to put all of the other gods in Rayclast into sleep mode somehow. Don't ask. Enter the Val, a bunch of people completely obsessed with living forever. Basically like this guy. They discovered these little beautifully colored rocks called Virtue Gems. Yeah, the same ones we use to avoid ever having to use a default attack in-game. While we are sophisticated and smart and socket our gems inside of our gear and all that, the Val, well, let's just say they were a little bit more daring and would just shoot that rock dust straight into their veins. Queen Aziri of the Val really wanted to stay beautiful forever and ordered Doriani, her mad scientist, to figure it out for her. Classic delegation. He screwed up big time though, potentially causing a cataclysm that more or less destroyed their entire civilization. Good times. Remember the Asmeri hiding out in the Wildwoods from earlier? Yeah, now that the Val are practically wiped from existence, they decided now would be a good time to claim the Iron Throne for themselves. They rebrand as the Eternals, terrible movie by the way, and go on to create Sarn, a giant city that you can find over in Act 3. Many years pass and the Emperor Izaro of the Eternal Empire has an unfortunate case of impotency and decides to open up a giant labyrinth full of traps and dead ends as a way of figuring out who to give the keys to his kingdom to after he dies. Kaitis, a young upstart from the sickeningly rich Perandus family, completes the labyrinth and becomes the next emperor. He hires a dude called Malachi to be his advisor, and well, that doesn't go terribly well, since Malachi is kind of insane and wants to follow in Doriani's footsteps with the whole wanting to see just how far he can take these little virtue gems. Well, all in all, the Eternals were actually giant assholes and enslaved people and all that, so a group of rebels led by High Templar Vol and a bunch of other historically important figures like the Ezamites Rigwald and Karui's King Kong
monitorizarea. Bă, frate, dar de unde scoate astea?
Went ahead and basically took over the Eternal Empire by beating them up. Also, side note, during this rebellion, Colm killed a ton of Eternal higher-ups and attached their skulls to his belt, creating our beloved Headhunter.
Eternal
What a
Laboratory.
freaking legend.
Makes sense.
Unfortunately, one bad apple survived, Malachi. He's still around and somehow manages to convince the newly self-appointed Emperor Vol that he was a good fit for the task of destroying the beast and with it thaumaturgical magic in all of Rayclast. Turns out, big surprise, he was lying and he just wanted to steal the beast's power for himself. This led to another cataclysm which ultimately destroyed the Eternal Empire once and for all.
Bă, e crazy rău
That's
povestea asta.
more or
E
less where
crazy
you
rău de
come
tot.
in, an exile cast off from Oriath by a High Templar Dominus. You're basically the universe's designated cleanup crew, tasked with cleaning up after everybody else's messes in the flashiest way possible. So, there you have it. That's exactly everything you'll ever need to know about Path of Exile's lore. I'm glad I could be of help.
Well, actually.
This is a really big, thick book on linear algebra. It's super, super thick. I mean, look at that. Wow. Linear Algebra, Theory and Applications. This one is by Ward Cheney and David Kincaid. In this video, we're going to take a very brief look at this book so you can see what it's
Ok, nu se mai auzea că am dat monitorizarea la ala. Ok. Da, cred că e în regulă așa. Da, lăsăm momentan așa că am făcut destule schimbări. N-ai chef să mă la asta. Bă, crazy, crazy. Ce explic asta? De unde l-a scos pe frate pe toate astea? Că în joc jucând, nu știu cine înțelege toate astea. Amazing, comprehensive. Hai să vedem și ăla. Element din playlist. E tot făcut de el? Da. Nu, e altul. Kitten Cat Noodle. Mamă, cât durează chat. Stați că le dăm în... Adăugăm coadă, nu coadă, nu. Vizionează mai târziu, vizionează mai târziu.
And people, we have to bring the fight to them.
Bă, frate.
Okay, alright, interesting.
Cam profi vorbește, zic și eu.
That came out way before Scourge.
Demons known as the Scourge. They're powerful, dangerous, and come in many forms. The more blood you
Okay.
The Lord's Labyrinth is an
Mamă, ce cute e asta.
essential element.
Lol.
But this labyrinth was only ever used once for this purpose, and its creator, the Emperor Izaro Fretius, has been locked in. Oops. Okay. Felt that allowing whoever completed a for a round ass. Yeah. Oh, you're so cute.
Mamă, ce ochi are. Holy shit. Gata, mi-a găsit nevasta. Ce-am primit, mă? M-a primit ceva pe Discord sau ce dracu? Nu știu de unde s-a auzit ăla, mă rog. Ia, hai să continuăm. Deci nu, astea nu le băgăm acum. Ce mai avem pe aici? Asta.
In this video, I discuss the uncertain future of the how to
De fapt am ascultat, povestește. Da, mă, nașpa cu toată moda asta cu remake-uri și live action-uri, că vor să facă live action la Dream or Dragons. Și ghiși ce? Da. Nu mai scot alte animații, că ar fi bine. Nu știu dacă neapărat cât de mișto ar fi să continue, că nu pot să continue direct, că deja erau bătrâni, ca și când ar continua acum Harry Potter-ul direct cu aceiași actori și peste 20 de ani sau cât a trecut. Gen, ar fi un fel de spin-off până la urmă făcut. Da, cred că doar s-a terminat bine seria, nu pot să zic că m-aș mai fi așteptat la încă un ăsta, încă un film. Da, a fost ok. Ok, video. Ce mai era pe aici? Asta ia. Am auzit și o chestie asta.
Wait, what? As players have jumped into the war within and begun leveling up, we've seen data and heard a great deal of feedback that players coming into Kaz Algar with in-game Dragonflight gear were extremely powerful relative to the initial content. It's entirely intended that effort put into gearing translates into a significant combat advantage at the start of a new expansion. But the values we've seen are extreme, often not even allowing for time for normal combat rotations. This disparity also caused mixed level groups to experience skewed results, with lower level players contributing drastically more than level 80s. Tomorrow, on Wednesday, the 28th, we're going to apply hotfixes in the game to address this. The hotfixes will be adjusting the scaling of the enemies of the war within to increase
Welcome to Battle.net Late Access Edition.
Bringing the duration of combat more in line with expected WoW behavior. These changes will be most noticeable at 70 and will have a reduced
Probabil cel mai bun joc scos vreodată și cea mai de căcată firma.
Gentlemen, this is what they get for not buying early access. It's what they deserve.
Yep.
That's right. Yeah, that's what they deserve. It's tax the poor. This is a poor tax. You obviously couldn't even play the game, and now that you can, it's harder. This is sounding a lot more like real life every day. I wonder if you can just buy money in this game like you can in real life. That would be crazy, wouldn't it? Wow. Let's read some comments. Did people complain the mobs are dying too fast? Is this a thing? Of course they did. Because you have to understand that this is a problem that's identified by a developer at Blizzard who, I think the reason why they're identifying this problem is because they can't fix the scaling. Who is this a problem for? 6 people? Who cares?
6 people.
Why is this something that needs to be solved? Also, by the way, when I was back in, like, look, let me see if, let me think, what expansion did I level on stream? Asmon Gold, BFA leveling. So, gets the best weapon, journey to max level in Shadowlands. Okay, let's look at how I'm playing in Shadowlands, okay?
Yeah.
Oh, is this a dungeon? Yeah, we're just totally farming everything. It's not even a big deal. Grouping everything up. This is in a dungeon as well. We're not even looking at anything. Immediately level 54. Okay, now we've got a boss fight here at level 53. Oh, here we go. He's dying, like, instant-fucking-taneously. I pop my cooldowns. He's dead. Look at that. It's just like, what are we talking about here? Like, I'm killing these mobs like it's nothing. This was in Shadowlands. I'm not even losing health. Where's Dragonflight? It's like we're fighting a level 79 elite, just like we were.
Yeah.
Me and McConnell right here, just like we did back 2 days ago. Look at this. Big dicking a 79 elite, and we are level, like, what? 73, 72, or something like that?
Ba, ai dreptate, omul.
Look
Lol.
at this. It's not even close. So yeah, everything. No, we're level 60. We're 60 and we just killed a 70 elite. It was nothing. Look at McConnell. This is us fighting an elite. He's dead in like seconds. Let's get to another AoE pull. Oh, there's 3 mobs here. Level 61. Look at this. They're getting annihilated. My health didn't even go below, I'm prot.
Yeah.
Look at this. This thing's dying in like literal seconds. Look at dungeon runs. Here we go. This is at level 70. Connell's dead. That's the way she goes.
Cred că o să schimb totul, să pun full screen, că nu-mi place să țin așa doar pe bucățică de ecran. E de prost gust. Eu o să trebuiască să schimb și scena asta, sincer. Să vedem cu, da, să vedem cu un chat transparent pe ecran. O să testez chat și o să punem pentru următoarea noapte de reacții.
This is on Mythic or Heroic or something. It's not like this is on normal mode either.
Along the soul of the instance. It would just save a lot of time. I don't have to sit here like killing these mobs forever. It's fucking annoying. You guys see what I mean? It's like they just take so long to...
So, let's see if we can find another one. Where's another expansion? Oh, here we go. Here we go. This was Dragonflight, guys. So look at this idiot here. Look at this pathetic idiot. Barely killing one group of mobs. Let me show him how it's done, okay? Look at that scaly loser.
Ah, da, mi-aduc aminte de asta.
Hey, wait a second. He's taking my mobs. There we go. We got him. Okay.
Da. Deloc broken.
Thank you so much. I'm not even losing health. I really appreciate that. I didn't even lose any health. And that's just how it's done. And let's see what our loot is. I can't lose. I didn't even lose any health. Asmongold begins leveling in Wrath of the Lich King. Yes, here we go. This is the best spec in the game. Yeah, and you guys are seeing why. Yep, just totally normal gameplay here. Unbelievable.
That's more fresh, lol.
Like, this is actually the way that people think. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Utgard Keep. What we're hoping to do, this is my plan. This is us doing Utgard Keep. Here we go. Or not experience. I'll have enough. Know what I thought people here. This is the first dungeon. Look at that. Wrath of the Lich King. Look at the damage. We're basically soloing it. Here. A literal god at work.
Lol.
What are we talking about? This was never a problem. Like, it's so funny to me that Blizzard is fixing this. Because I just want to show you guys that leveling has always been a joke. It's been a joke since classic WoW. And really since Wrath. Like, Burning Crusade leveling was still kind of hard. Unless you were a Warlock, which then it wasn't. But if you were a normal class Leveling
De
was
ce
a
are așa
joke
special
in
Warlock-ul?
Wrath. It was a joke in Kata. It was a joke in Mists. It was a joke in every other expansion. What are we talking about? Leveling needs to be changed. All they're doing, listen, this is what they're doing. They're stomping on the dick of the poor people who couldn't afford to buy the game early. That's what it is. They're dick
Dar îi zice pe
stomping
față
and
rău
they
de tot
want you
astfel,
to
asta îmi
like it.
place la el. Jur că genial.
That's right. The Chromie thing is it doesn't matter. It's stupid. That was easy. Foam was detected. It was nerfed successfully. Yes, this is kind of pointless. Who cares? I prefer not to hit like a limp noodle at 80 if we can make this a thing, please. I feel great at 80. I don't know. Shout out to everyone that hit 80 and won't have to deal with these changes. Fellas, we made it. Real value of early access. Early and often, as they say. They sure do. Another W for early access who had it easy, I guess. Are the WoW players trying to talk about this? Because, like, the WoW Reddit has been conditioned to be... I think that they've been successfully conditioned to be shit-eaters. They have been. And they've been very good and very obedient shit-eaters for a while. So I'm actually kind of curious to see what's going to happen here. So let's see what they're going to say. He gives me this vibe. Yeah, that's what he's supposed to do. She's not even hot, bro. She's not even hot. Like, she just another crazy bitch. Like, let's be honest. Like, this is... Yeah, what do you mean? Like, she is? Yeah, but she could be way hotter. Like, she alright. She alright. Like, that's it. She looks worse now? Yeah. I'm just gonna say it's in a vacuum. I would really support this. However, this time to make the change was actually a week ago. There's absolutely asinine to slow things down. I think it's so funny that people that bought early access is over, so let's make everything harder for the poor people.
Ca în viața reală, Asmon. Ca în viața reală.
That's what we should do. We should make a 40-man raid and go to the level 73s that are trying to quest and tell them, like, hey, you need to level faster. They're going to make leveling faster. We should do that. That'd be a really, really good idea. Let's go farm some pores. I think so. That's actually so smart. I want to do that later on. That's poor planning. It is. Yeah, good one. I like that. And, yeah, scale their mobs. No, we'll just stand around them and watch them. And we'll be like, man, you sure do like killing these guys really fast, don't you? Well, it won't be the case tomorrow. It's going to be harder because you're poor. Just like real life, loser. Man, it must suck to not have any money. And we're all like, but you have to have a top hat, and you have to have like the same mount. Check my DM for my credit week. Right now I'm doing this. I'll look later. Really dumb move by Blizzard. All my guildmates got early access, already have our alts to 80, and they're doing this to hurt people who didn't buy early access. Exactly. They're doing it on purpose to make people give them more money. That's right. So now, next time that Blizzard brings out an expansion, all of you poor people that didn't buy the expansion on early access, now you've learned your lesson. Yeah. You learned your lesson, and hopefully you've learned the error of your ways. Yeah, better start saving up now. Yeah, it's time to take out loans. Exactly. Isn't only 10% really worth getting upset about? No, it's not that big of a deal, but it's just funny that it's happening.
I'll be talking about...
After early access, players that are...
Ok, good. Ce mai avem pe aici? Ia să vedem, iar Rotius, de DG Remaster Game. Pausing POA2.
And this is Path of Exile 2, and I figured we would do a little bit of a chat while I play and try out the Mercenary, and yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, if you want to try out the Mercenary, I'll actually move on to this other character class, which we can do here.
So,
Wow, stai așa, că am văzut interfața cum arată. Wait. Asta arată la fel, parcă. Da. What the fuck is this?
So, it's very different from PoE 1. And it actually took me a little bit of time to figure out that like the mouse button one is like changed by like the different ones, like Q. You have like the like quick burst attack here.
Yeah, so we wanted the crossbow to play differently than the bow.
Yeah.
Like it sort of felt like so we wanted the crossbow to play differently than the bow.
Yeah.
Like it sort of felt like you know, we just sort of have the philosophy that we want every weapon type to feel like way more different in PoE 2 than it does in PoE 1. And so we were thinking,
De acord cu asta.
and so we're thinking like, okay, load
Da,
first.
în PoE 1 funcționează, nici măcar nu simți armele, că tu echipezi armele doar ca să fie tipul ăla respectiv corect, ca să beneficiezi de bonusurile din War 3 și eventual în funcție de culorile socketului, iar de acolo mai puțin, mai poți să faci și alte scheme. Da, nu se simțeau deloc aproape diferit. Oricum tu ajungi să spamezi două abilități, cam așa, să zic 3 maxim, sau chiar una. Cel mai des vreo 2 abilități, toți le spamezi și abilitățile alea se simt la fel indiferent de ce armă ai avea. Deci practic totul cumva se reducea la ori ești melee, ori ești ranged. Și majoritatea mergeau ranged. Bine, mai există și summoner care, mă rog, nu știu, e mai complicat acolo. Summoner, mă rog, necromancer sau nu știu ce am zis.
And loading them.
Yeah.
So that means that you can switch between two ammo types really, really quickly if you've got rounds in the chamber. But if you don't, then you have to do the reload cost. So it actually works like an FPS in that way, where like you want to actually have rounds in all the different guns.
It feels a lot more like a gun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's quite a different feeling.
So this one has been really hard for me to like work with. I've mostly been trying to like shoot it up against the wall.
The grenade?
Like, yeah.
So the thing with the grenades is they're supposed to be hard because when they're good, they're amazing. And that's actually one of the other things with PoE 2 skill design philosophy in general, is we want to try to make each skill have a place where you want to use it.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that every skill can be a 6-link now means that like we want to get away from just spam one skill, right? And in order for that to happen, you need like, okay, here's a situation where a grenade is good, here's a situation where a grenade is bad, and then if you should be rewarded for taking advantage of those things.
See, I have a question about that. Like you said,
Smart.
there does seem to be a more focus on switching between.
E bine că vezi lucruri separate, că pentru 2 chiar au un alt mindset, o altă mentalitate complet diferită, cumva de primul. Și e bine că le țin separate. Lol.
How does that fit into Path of Exile 2 if you are heavily incentivized to use multiple skills?
It is going to be the case that, okay, so we still have automation, right? We still have things like Righteous Fire and so on. It's just that the rewards for switching are higher. And so what that means is, like, I have no doubt that there will be builds that will be like 0-button builds or whatever, you know? Like, I'm sure that will be a thing because we give the tools, the capability to do that. But what it's going to mean is you're going to be getting more spirit in order to be able to support those things, and you're probably therefore going to be getting less damage nodes or things like that, or maybe less defenses or whatever it is you're trading off.
Lol.
So effectively, like, you are going
Când rămas de living right, ce mișto arată.
That is how it needs to be. I don't think it can be okay for a 0-button build to be beating a build where you're like hammering buttons constantly.
So basically, like, you will be heavily rewarded for using more complicated, but you should still be able to do most things or everything.
I would say so.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting though because I mean, okay, like I certainly cannot claim to have balanced Righteous Fire, but it is absolutely a tricky one as far as like the universe of skills go, right? Like it can be pretty crazy.
Yeah. So I think is it this one? Yeah. So this, like, when I was playing on the other PCs, this is what I've been using the most.
Yeah.
And I've been sort of like, this is very similar to how I played the Ranger bow build.
Right.
With the, I had like it felt a lot like Toxic Rain. It was like the trap. And I remember you said you hadn't seen anyone using that as a main ability before.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. So it's very similar to how I'm, oh wow. Oh, this is brand new news to me that ritual exists.
Yeah.
Very cool. But yeah, so I've actually been like running around kiting like this. This is how I've been playing usually. And then different abilities for bosses.
So one thing that I would recommend though is like at the very least throwing a grenade in there occasionally is going to improve things. But then the other thing as well is that
I do when I'm up against a wall.
Right. And resistances
Yeah.
a thing that like there's a lot more variety of resistances within areas in PoE 2 as well.
Yeah.
So for example, in this area you've got the tree monsters, and so those are vulnerable to fire, being made of wood. And so you're gonna like want to, but there are other ones that are the resistant to fire, and so that kind of thing means that like even just within an area, like it's more reasonable in PoE 2 to expect that you'll have more than one element to be able to utilize, and that sort of should mean therefore that you can like get a lot more advantages from switching between them as well.
Yeah. Yeah, because you can see here, that's what the red is on the bar, similar to Path of Exile 1 with the...
Right. Well, you've actually got, so there's these little symbols now that I don't think are in PoE 1. I don't know, maybe they did get added. Mark might have even added them, I don't know.
Yeah, if you mean that they're vulnerable to, yeah.
That was added at some point? Okay, cool, right.
Yeah,
I don't even know which of these features Mark cribs and puts in PoE 1.
We're a lot of quality of life now. That's very good. Now, one thing, this was... I don't know if it was a little bit better on the Ranger, I think, but a big change for me as a Path of Exile 1 player is, well, sort of the removal of phasing.
Yes.
And it does actually feel quite bad, I would say, getting locked in by monsters.
The thing is, it is to make them dangerous. Now, one thing we have done recently is that the dodge roll actually changes your character size when you do it. Previously, we want to make sure that dodge roll still is a viable option to get out. But that being said, if you really trap yourself with like a lot of monsters, we want to make sure that it's still as possible because I think it is bad to be able to just phase whenever you want to. Now, that being said, there is a spirit reservation. For 100 spirit, you can turn your dodge roll into a teleport. And so that is an ability you have available to you if you need to do that. There's also a unique that gives you phasing on dodge roll.
Okay.
So there are options for you.
Interesant. Mamă, chiar jucăm la sare chat. Băgăm puternic.
And trap yourself and Now the other thing as well I suspect you're running into is that you're probably gacking quite a lot because you're a PoE 1 player used to doing anything, like you're not necessarily used to the danger that a monster can pose in PoE 2. And so as you get used to the amount of monsters you can actually take on, like in this sort of stuff, you probably won't make those mistakes as much.
It definitely is a thing you can counter with a slower playstyle.
Right.
But I think a lot of PoE 1 players will like get into like or have those habits where they...
Or just more OP items, honestly.
That too, that's the thing. I have enough fun in a year and stuff. So like that is exactly why it was not a problem on the Ranger as much, because I had found gear and I was the Ranger felt incredible.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. So that was like a very it was such a different vibe for me because at Exile Class,
cât de mare e harta.
30-minute demo, 40-minute demo, whatever, and you didn't get to play Path of Exile because finding gear and upgrades and stuff like that is such a big part of it. So that was very jarring for me. But then at the LA event, when I got to play like 3 or 4 hours and find gear upgrades, that was so like it felt PoE again.
So let's move over to the warrior now.
Yeah. Okay.
And this one might. Okay. So the funny story about this character. When I played it, I know how to play PoE 2. I would hope, right? So I get this demo character. And I go in here and I'm like, and Octavian is the one who sets these up, by the way. So I'm like, Octavian, this character is so underpowered. You need like way more damage on the weapon. You need like all the stuff, like, and so like I start like, oh, I'm gonna add mods to these and like change all the stuff, right? And eventually get to the point where the character feels like it's actually powerful enough to not die. And then someone else in the company's like, man, the warrior is just so OP. That character's invulnerable. There's just no way you're going to die. And I go back to the original state that he left it in, and I play again. And then I found that character was actually perfectly fine. It was a play skill issue. And so what I'm saying is that like even someone who knows how the abilities work and like just playing a character for a little bit of
Controlul pe birou ca să nu facem zgomot la microfon. Băgăm niște Darksiders, că m-am hotărât să băgăm niște Darksiders.
That's the thing, we have so many PoE 1 habits.
But I'm saying after half an hour of playing this character, you're going to be you're going to be doing a lot better. So what I'll tell you about this is, so if you use the middle click ability here, it's going to create these molten lines. And if you use double slam on those lines, it like re-triggers the lava. So you want to probably have more than one line out for optimal damage, but also there are other skills that are going to be going to do more slams, right? Because every slam will trigger it.
Yeah.
So what we can do is, there's a skill down there called Rampage. Sorry, Stampede. We renamed it. Throw it in the
Page.
And then when you use that, it like does this thing and then jump and then does like these triggers.
H.
So if you do that and then you push through it, then that will trigger like a lot of the things. So you can imagine how like that can be pretty good. So the Rampage is pretty strong. Oh, by the way, you're near the sun, so you're going to be taking damage continuously while you're here.
Okay.
So get in the shade if you want to.
Oh wow.
So yeah.
I'm definitely feeling destroyed a little bit.
Yes, no, for sure, you will be. It takes some time
Gata.
to how to play the character.
Cred că e perfect așa. Lăsăm așa lateral.
It's very, very different.
Yeah.
Frumos.
But as I said, you do this sort of stuff. Now that Stampede ability, there's a few other support gems you might want to throw in there. So if you open up, I guess I'm doing the build guide now.
Yeah, it's nice. It's a nice
if you go,
let me just go away from the
for sure. And just careful of that guy. He's got a pretty nasty ability he uses sometimes. Yeah, this no, he's not going to use it. It's all right. You're good. If he uses this like beam attack, that's pretty crazy.
Seems like I really like the right click ability.
Double stamp, rolling slam. Yeah. Anyway, so if you open up, we've got some support gems here. So on the bottom here, we've got the bottom support gem. This is stomping ground.
Okay.
So any skill where you do a step, it will trigger an extra shockwave on the step. So if you throw that on Stampede, that's going to just be a straight up DPS upgrade. But it does technically work on anything that involves stepping, like shield charge, but also even just
what the fuck?
Like that rolling slam that's got steps in it. There's like other things like that it can work on. Then over there in the middle, just up a little bit, you've got armor explosion and break endurance. So armor explosion, if you put that on armor break, it's up there a bit. That's going to make it so that it triggers an extra explosion when you break armor, and then that one gives you an endurance charge when you break armor.
Okay.
So then this is obviously beneficial. The other thing as well is that leap slam, when you use it on an armor broken enemy, it does a large amount of stun damage and removes the armor again. So you can use that to stun things pretty effectively.
And see, leap slam looks really nice for being able to get out of packs and stuff.
Yeah. So you can definitely. That's the other thing. We do have travel skills like that, but do bear in mind that leap slam has that. It's not instant, right? So if you go to use leap slam, you are in danger because you're not damaging stuff while you're leaping, and so. Like if you use it in advance to get out of a bad situation, that's very good. But if you're already surrounded, that is going to, you might have trouble.
How early do classes get access to something like Leap Slam or some sort of escape?
So it does vary a little bit. So on the Ranger, you have Escape Shot, and you get that from level 2. But that skill is not useful to get out of a corner because it takes you backwards. For skills that we want that can just a pure get out of the thing, that's kind of more around like Act 3, start of Act 3 that you start to get that. I think some of them might be end of Act 2, but it's a little bit later on.
With mechanics like this where I have to avoid being in the sun, how do you balance that around melee and ranged?
So not every area has to be exactly equivalent on melee and range, right? Like there's some areas where range have more of a tough time, and I feel like I want to have in every act like 1 or 2 areas that have kind of slightly interesting things going on with them that are a bit unusual.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily do it in a non-unique map. Because I think that gets annoying if you're talking about like the more mindless grind of mapping, But I think in campaign it's interesting to have these kind of mechanics where it kind of forces you to do something a little bit different and do that sort of stuff.
Da, are sens. Total de acord cu asta.
Now another one is that so we generally, as you're probably aware, avoid cooldown skills where possible.
Yeah.
But I think by the time you get up to the higher levels, it is okay to have the occasional cooldown skill. So, that's that skill I was talking about, the nasty flame blast. Yeah, like that one is pretty nasty. Anyway, so there's a skill called Hammer of the Gods in your inventory if you want to throw that on.
Yeah.
Once you've dealt with this guy.
To be fair, the rolling slam does also feel very good as like a one-button ability for clearing.
Yeah. So, Hammer of the Gods. So this is a cooldown skill. You might want to put Fist of War on it, by the way, because it's a very long cooldown skill. And so Fist of War just works well on it.
Okay.
And you could put Second Wind on there if you want, but it will take a bit longer to cool off then. So what Second Wind does is it gives an extra cooldown to a cooldown ability so that it charges up again.
Very nice.
But in exchange for the cooldown is a bit longer. I think it's like 25% or something.
Yeah, so if I really want to do something
throw Hammer of the Gods on that thing. and then it takes a while to arrive.
Oh,
but when it
wow.
does, it does a lot of damage.
So that feels very good.
Yeah. So this thing's got a long cooldown. But the thing is that so you've got Seismic Cry that can double the number of slams you do. You've got Fist of Water Improver. You've got Second Wind to be able to get 2 of them. Like you can actually nuke a boss pretty damn hard with that ability.
And I'm guessing I can put Volcanic
Of course.
while this is going down.
Yeah, exactly. And then it slams and then gets all of them. So this kind of thing can be quite fun.
That's very cool. I mean, that's been one of my favorite things so far. It's been like every boss is a bit more like Dark Soulsy.
Right.
And like honestly, it almost feels like you're fighting endgame bosses in the campaign.
Well, you know, in a way you are because I mean, 2 things. One of them is that like all the same guy, Mark, designing the in-game bosses in PoE1 is making all these early game bosses, and the quality standard is the same as an in-game boss as it is for an early game boss. But the second thing is that all of these campaign bosses will be used in in-game as well. So they have to have mechanics and interest and stuff that's going to stand up to that. And in some cases, there'll be like more skills. That's a total waste of that skill, by the way. to use it on some random guys. But in some cases, the you know. So the nice thing is in in-game, right? We can be a lot more ruthless with regard to like the cooldowns that the bosses have on their more difficult abilities and things like that, and you know, like when they use them. Also, a lot of the skills in campaign, like they have upgraded versions they'll use in like the last quarter of life. In game, we can just be like, it just uses that ability all the time, you know, that kind of thing. So yeah. Hey, any other questions that you have while we're before we start?
You said that strength has like lots of flat life.
Yeah.
How do you balance that around? Like people are going to want int and dex as well.
So int's getting mana. So if you need to solve your mana problems, you're getting, you know, you're getting int, and anyone can pick it at any time. If you need strength, then if you need life, you're picking strength, and any class can do it. And then if you need accuracy, then you pick dex, and anyone can do it. Sorry, that's a bug there. That. You know, there's one last thing I just want to need accuracy, then you pick dex and anyone can do it. Sorry, that's a bug there that class can do it. And then if you need accuracy, then you pick dex and anyone can do it. Sorry, that's a bug there that. You know, there's one last thing I just want to show you as well, because there's been a couple of changes to the skill system since the last time you saw the game.
Okay.
And I just want to go over that very quickly before you. So,
absolutely.
One thing is that the skill system now, you uncut gems, both level gems and give new gems. So we no longer have experience.
What the fuck's
From gems anymore. You actually have to pick, you have to pick the skills you want to level up, and this actually changes the game quite significantly, because previously, you know, the number one newbie question is like, why do I have to manually level up my skills? Like, it was just a common thing. And like, I realized that if someone's asking that, it's because they're not having fun doing that, right? And as soon as we made it so you pick what skill to level up, and then or you can pick a new skill, like suddenly just the fact that there's a decision, and you're like, do I want more damage on armor break, or do I want to get shockwave totem? It's just immediately like a cool thing. And so this actually works more like the Diablo 2 skill tree now. Where like you need enough uncut gems as you go through the campaign to level your gems up, and at in game, getting a level 20 gem just requires level 20 uncut gem. And so effectively, that's the thing. Like, if you want level 20 gems, you need to be finding level 20 uncuts, and they're hard to find. You know, that's like the challenge.
Okay, cool.
So that's one thing.
So you will be able to like still change your build at endgame. You're not going to have to find.
Of course, yeah, it's all that. So but the thing is that it's just a lot more fun during the leveling process to do that. So that's one of the major.
That is really cool.
Major
I always like plus skill points in Diablo as well. So
right. So yeah, that's
one thing that I thought was more difficult in PoE 2 than PoE 1 was figuring out what support gems actually linked. Because in PoE 1 you have the things like appearing.
So we're doing that. Two other things. And I wanted to go over this too. The way that support gems work now is first of all, you've got the screen, which I think you've seen before in that other thing. So we've got that sort of the recommendation system, but also this screen here, which
what the fuck
doesn't do this, but effectively shows you all the gems that will work with a given skill. So that means that you'll be able to see what exactly works. But the other thing as well.
Oh lol.
We've actually changed the way attribute requirements on support gems work now. So effectively, every single travel node you allocate is one extra support gem of that color. So if you want more red support gems, so you can see here, like I could have 27 because I'm a strength character. I've room for 27 red supports.
Right.
Only room for 1 dex support and room for 5 int supports because of the amount of attributes I've got.
Right.
But even if I want another dex support, all I have to do is allocate 1 travel node, and then I can do another one. So that means there's always a situation where you can, and effectively the sum. Yeah.
It's all good. We'll wrap it up. Thank you so much for taking time to show me some more PoE 2, and looking forward to release on 15th of November.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thanks for watching. Sorry for like the video, but more importantly, try to die less than I do.
Okay, awesome.
What the fuck? Mișto. Bă, chiar mișto. Wow.
I'll be talking
Trebuie să-i trimit asta cuiva. O secundă. Să deschid WhatsApp-ul și să trimit. Wow, e... Wow, Poe 2. Ok. Cool. N-am ce zice. Foarte mișto. Next. Ce mai avem aici? Every side mechanic tentant. Mamă, o oră 20 de minute, cât de repede trece timpul. Hai să vedem una scurtă. Hai să vedem asta cu distro order Linux.
1991, a 21-year-old graduate student in Helsinki named Linus Torvalds announces he's doing a free operating system. Just a hobby, won't be a big professional thing. Fast forward a few years later, and that hobby evolves into one of the most important projects in the history of computing. Most operating systems were created to make shitloads of money.
That's right! It's $99! It's an incredible value, but it's true! It's Windows from Microsoft! Order today!
But Linux was a revolution based on a simple principle. Software should be free and open. Today we'll take a look at the weird history of Linux, and in the process, answer the question of why are there so many Linux distros? But before we can even talk about Linux, we need to travel back to 1969. While Grandpa was dropping acid at Woodstock, Ken Thompson and Dennis Ritchie were creating the Unix operating system. Unix was well loved by both businesses and universities. There was one problem though. The code was owned by AT&T, and in 1977, when UC Berkeley created their own Berkeley software distribution, AT&T sued them. That put limitations on Unix development and led to a period known as the Unix Wars. A few years later, in 1983, Richard Stallman creates the GNU project, which was intended to be a free and open replacement for Unix. But Unix was a big complex project with hundreds of different applications, and replacing it was no easy task. Over the next few years, the project recreated many of the applications that you know and love today. Tools that are often used synonymously with Linux, like tar, bash, and Emacs, just to name a few. By the early 90s, GNU had all this great software, but it was missing one essential component: the operating system kernel. A complete operating system needs a kernel to sit in between the hardware and the software, where it can allocate CPU and memory resources to run software applications. Luckily, it was right around this time that Linus Torvalds was working on his hobby operating system. Originally, it was going to be called FreeAxe, because the name Linux was too egotistical, but as fate would have it,
because it was too egotistical, okay?
Was too egotistical, but as fate would have it, the admin for the FTP server at the time didn't like the name and changed it without his consent, and the name stuck from there on out. Initially, Linux was released with a proprietary license that had limitations on commercial use. However, by the end of 1992, it was released under the GNU General Public License, and this gave birth to a complete operating system that we know today as GNU plus Linux. The following year, hundreds of developers jumped on the Linux project and started adapting it to the GNU environment. The beauty of the Linux kernel is that it gave developers the ability to build custom operating systems that felt like Unix but didn't come with the fear of being sued down the road. Ultimately, this led to some of the first Linux distributions, like Soft Landing, Yggdrasil, and Slackware. But what is a Linux distro exactly? A distro is a complete operating system based on the Linux kernel that contains a bunch of packages and libraries, and typically a package manager to install additional applications, and possibly a Windows system if there's a GUI involved. Many distros might share the same default user interface. Popular UI options include GNOME, KDE Plasma, Mate, Cinnamon, and a bunch of others. Today, there's nearly 1,000 different Linux distros out there, and they've all been customized to serve different purposes.
Crazy.
Some of them are designed for enterprise users, while others are for home users. Some distros only run on servers, while others are designed for desktop, mobile, and embedded devices. And each distro is usually backed by a community that has its own set of philosophical and technical opinions. Most of these older distros are no longer maintained and just considered historical artifacts. One exception is Slackware. It had a release as recently as 2016 and has spawned a bunch of different variations. Most notably, it led to the OpenSUSE project, which remains a very popular general-purpose distro and is usually associated with professional power users. distros. But the most significant distro to come out of 1993 was Debian. It was established by Ian Murdoch, and its name comes from his name combined with his ex-wife's name. And its first official release came in 1996 as version 1.1 Buzz, and since then, each release contains a codename with a Toy Story character. A few years later, it led to the creation of Advanced Package Tool, or APT, although it was originally developed under the codename Deity. The Debian community is huge, and it's a great distro today and very popular on servers, but can also be used as a general-purpose distro. It's minimal and stable, which are traits that have allowed it to father a huge number of offspring distros. Some of them are highly specialized, like Raspberry Pi OS or SteamOS, but by far the most popular child of Debian is Ubuntu, which was first released in 2004 and is managed by a British company called Canonical. It follows a semi-annual release schedule, where each release is named after an animal and a word with the same letter, like Cosmic Cuttlefish. It's extremely beginner-friendly and was really one of the first distros to open up Linux to the mainstream home computer user. In recent years, though, it's received a lot of hate from the Linux community for releasing closed-source software and also selling data to third-party companies. In any case, it remains extremely popular, and it even has a variety of different flavors like Kubuntu, Xubuntu, and Lubuntu, which are their own distributions that offer slight variations on the original. Like Kubuntu, for example, is designed to be a great entry point if you're transitioning from Microsoft Windows to Linux. In addition, Ubuntu has spawned many other variations like Linux Mint, Peppermint, and Pop! OS, just to name a few of the most popular options. Debian has a huge family tree, but if we go back to 1994, there is another Linux distro that also has a huge family tree called Red Hat. It was created by Mark Ewing and is known for its focus on security and reliability for enterprise users. Red Hat adopted a business model where they maintain an open source operating system, then make money by selling consulting, integration, and add-on services to big enterprise clients. Today, it generates billions of dollars in revenue and was recently acquired by IBM for an 11-figure price tag. Red Hat has given birth to a bunch of children, most of which are associated with enterprise work and use either the RPM or Yum package manager. Popular descendants include RHEL, CentOS, and Fedora, which is not only great for enterprise servers, but also works well as a personal workstation, and it's even the distro of choice by Linus Torvalds himself. Now, one thing that you'll notice about Linux distros is that many of them do a lot of stuff that you don't actually need. That takes up space on your hardware and ultimately makes your life more complex. There are two Linux families that came out in the early 2000s that are focused on simplicity, performance, and minimalism. Gentoo, with its Enoch distro, came out in 2000, and Arch came out in 2002. If you like to keep things simple, then you'll probably like the Arch family of Linux distros. It has its own package manager called Pacman, and has adopted a rolling release model.
Pacman, lol. Hai cu aia, că sunt prost ăștia. Să-ți așa, să aduc niște ceva de ronțit. Mi-am adus niște alunece. Ia, unde am rămas?
That has a new major release every 6 months, Arch releases small updates that can be continuously updated in the OS. Arch is also the parent of Manjaro, which is one of the most popular distros of today. In addition to all these families that we've looked at, there are many popular independent distros, like the extremely lightweight Alpine, Fire OS for Amazon devices, and Android, which is used by billions of people every day. When you think of the Linux kernel like the engine in your car, it starts to answer the question of why are there so many Linux distros? Some cars are designed to go fast, others for comfort, some are engineered for enterprise, and others are just for fun. As a developer, Linux is like a free engine that you can use to build your own car. That freedom, along with GNU and the greater open source ecosystem, motivates people to try new things and to profit by creating innovation within that ecosystem. People who are threatened by it call it communism, but in reality, it's the polar opposite and the free market at its finest. Today, even Microsoft fully supports Linux through its WSL project. I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up there. There's a lot of aspects of the Linux history and the histories of individual distros that we didn't cover, but hopefully this gives you a general idea of how Linux came into existence and the evolution of Linux distros over time. Oh, and there's one random thing I almost forgot. Back in 2005, the source code for Linux was managed under a version control system called BitKeeper. That was controversial though because it's proprietary software. So Linus Torvalds did what any legend would do and he created Git. Before you go, make sure to like and subscribe and stay tuned for a lot more Linux content on this channel. Thanks for watching and I...
No, już to wydał. Ja. Mă abonez. Scurte și educative, foarte. Genial. Nota 10. Să punem și asta în watch letter. Să vedem aici ce mai avem. Ia.
Linus, do you follow any development of any new programming languages? Do you see any language except C which is suitable for development of operating system?
So I have to say, I'm kind of old-fashioned, and I'm really interested. The reason I got into Linux or operating systems in the first place was I really love hardware. I love tinkering with hardware. Not in the sense that I'm a hardware person. Giving me a soldering iron is a bad idea. But I like interacting with hardware from a software perspective. And I have yet to see a language that comes even close to C in that respect. It's not just that C, you can use C to generate good code for hardware. It's that if you think like a computer, writing C actually makes sense. I mean, and I think the reason it works that way is the people who designed C designed it at a time when when compilers had to be simple and the language had to be kind of geared towards what the output was. So when I read C, I know what the assembly language will look like. And that is something I care about.
Mă rog. Lol. Mor. Cool. Și mai avem una scurtă.
If you are an ARPG enjoyer, it is probably the best time right now for you. You have the most amount of options there has ever been, or it's the best time to get into it if you're somebody who hasn't been playing ARPGs typically. You know how they say you never know the golden years when you're in them? Well, I'm going to make the argument in this video that the ARPG genre just entered its golden years.
O chestie random, ia. Să-ți curez o chestie. Expansions, hai să căutăm. X. Au fost multe. Eu vreau o listă cu toate. Că în scurt o să vedem tier listul la un moment dat.
Now, the first thing we need to do is set a definition of what I'm referring to. ARPGs could refer to everything from Elden Ring to Diablo, but I'm specifically talking about in this video, isometric, top-down, blasting through thousands of creatures, complicated build style of ARPG. That is the type of game I'm referencing in this video. And in this video, I have multiple examples of either games that are currently doing very well or games that are soon to come out that are looking quite good for the genre as well. So let's get into it. But before we do, let's talk about today's sponsor. If you're a fan of the Warcraft universe like I am, maybe you played Warcraft the RTS game, or maybe you play World of Warcraft, consider trying a cross-platform strategy action game called Warcraft Rumble. It is set in that Warcraft universe. You're going to have characters you're familiar with like Sylvanas. You can play against and eventually acquire characters like Ragnaros. And it's a strategy game that starts fairly simple but gets more complex as you progress through it. It has PvE, PvP. I actually just recently got 90 sigils in the game, which is sort of like an achievement that now allows me to do raids and sieges. So it's something you can play for fun, not take too seriously, watch a movie in the background and enjoy characters you're familiar with, all the way to being hardcore about it and playing up the PvP leaderboard. So if you want to see more content before you consider downloading it, I actually do have another channel I've been uploading content related to Rumble on, so if you want to see what the game looks like, I'll put a link down below. You can check it out there. It's not an easy one. So thank you to Warcraft Rumble for sponsoring today's video. The first example, a game that has been out since October 23rd, 2013, has just recently hit its all-time high peak of players. I'm of course referring to Path of Exile, a game that is consistently being developed with more and more depth, so much so that the most common complaint is there is too much content in the game. Players are consistently coming back league and new season and year after year after year. Really does prove the line they once said that if you make it to maps, Path of Exile owns your soul. This is the best I've ever felt in a league start. I'm actually like absolutely loving this start. We're shredding everything. I feel like we're absolutely popping off, dude. I think 21 hours is a wrap for me, boys. I'm gonna go take a nap and I'll be back. Then there's a game that's sort of on the other side of a coin. A game that is, in my opinion, a gateway drug into
21 de ore, fără pauză, what the fuck? N-ajungem la nivelul ăsta, poate în weekend-uri să facem o dată. Vedem.
I'm of course referring to Diablo 4, and I know this one from experience. You see, the only other experience I'd had with ARPGs before Diablo 4 was a little bit of Lost Ark and a little bit of Diablo 3. I worked in a phone call center. I'd take calls and I'd just spin to win on Diablo 3 Barbarian, holding down the mouse, and it was super simple. So I hadn't really gotten into ARPGs very much. So when I got into Diablo 4, it was super simple. So I hadn't really gotten into ARPGs very much. So when I got into Diablo 4, it was the first time that I had really focused on the ARPGs. It was the only game I was playing, and I got heavily into ARPGs. Now, in the months following Diablo 4's release, it had got a lot of bad press about not having enough in-game, also being, you know, a slow, boring leveling process. But in its time, now by Season 5, the game has turned around to a point where people that are even Path of Exile longtime players are saying the game is in a good state. It seems like the community for people that are still playing Diablo 4 are actively really enjoying it. Season 4 and Season 5 have both had...
Mă tentează, dar parcă fac, îl iau tot super final. Și văd că e bullshit cum a fost Diablo 3, pentru că l-am luat foarte târziu și da, I guess, nu știu. Da, nu știu, nu cred că m-aș băga la asta.
2 seasons in a row of people enjoying the season and actively going out and saying they're enjoying the season.
Oh, dar chiar vreau să-mi iau microfonul. Dar aș putea da skip. Ce pare bună că aș putea da skip la timp. Dacă aș face-o. Nu știu. Întrebare foarte bună.
You're going to have a better time this season.
So now with the balance getting better, the leveling process seeming to be enjoyable, now we're getting multiple seasons in a row that seem fairly decent. The next thing that's coming for Diablo 4 is going to be the expansion. If the expansion is knocked out of the park and it adds more additions in the game, adding more depth on top of a base game that now has been solidified as fairly enjoyable, Diablo 4 has gone from being a game that literally spawned a meme of Diablo 4 bad to a very playable, enjoyable game with multiple seasons in a row seeming to be well received. That is still to be determined on October.
Dar ce adăugăm, mă, sezoanele astea la Diablo 4? Că în 3 era un căcat. Oh, ce... Wow, am jucat prea mult. Wow. Seasons. Ok. Înțeleg, deci mai asemănător ca legile din
The highly anticipated fighting minion damage reduction. Going to be a blast. Next up, Rogues. The Shroud of Condurus, a unique chest armor, gives you 3 seconds of immunity with reduction, flurry size, and
Ok. Da, nu știu, mult content. E de învățat o groază. Nu știu când o să intrăm, mă, dar îmi place fontul ăsta. Diablo ăsta.
October 8th when the expansion releases. So Diablo 4 actually fits a very important role within the ARPG genre. It is that break-in point, that gateway drug, that entry-level game for people that haven't really played ARPGs. ARPGs typically are a genre that comes with a high level of frustration, maybe not a high level of polish, and a high level of commitment needed in order to get the most out of the genre. For this reason, Diablo 4 actually fulfills a critical role and a much needed role within the ARPG genre of bringing in players from outside the genre that maybe would otherwise have never played ARPGs. And the fact that it has such a large brand franchise around it of Diablo is another name recognition that might tempt people into trying that genre.
Today we honor Shroud, who fought bravely and died just disgustingly.
It gives name brand recognition to maybe pull people into the genre that would otherwise never have tried it. It gives simplicity enough that it won't frustrate people that are not familiar with ARPGs. It doesn't require the insane amount of commitment that some of the other ARPGs require in order to get the most out of the game. And also has another critical component, which is couch co-op, cross-play, cross-progression, cross-system. This allows people that are console or PC players to interact or have a friend come over with a controller and play at the same time. This key component is something that other ARPGs are now starting to recognize is extremely important if you want to pull the most amount of people possible. This is where we start talking about Path of Exile 2. You see, Path of Exile 1 has console play on it, but it's not cross-play, cross-progression. You can't play on PC, go to your Xbox after you're done playing on your computer, sit on the couch and play your same character. In fact, the patches, etc., are all separate. This is something that Path of Exile 2 understands is a critical component now. And with Path of Exile 2, they are releasing...
Wow! Ok, asta e interfața de... Am înțeles, asta e interfața de consolă. Nu pot să-mi imaginez să joci jocul ăsta pe consolă și să vezi pasitriul ăla să te miști. Dă la câte unul de la deodată, doar ca să... Interesant. Mi se pare fan cum mă uit când vorbesc cum îmi crește CPU usage-ul la OBS. Lol. Mai bine nu vedea. Da, nu consum oricum cine știe ce. Cred că las filtrele, nu trebuie să fie problemă. Da, să te miști câte o pasivă, de aia una să citești fiecare la rând sau chestii de alea. Văzeam un exemplu când juca unul Poie, unul pe consolă și eram, nu. Nu mi se pare un joc potrivit pentru console de niciun fel, dar mă rog. Cei care au consolă și au alergie la PC-uri, fie. Eu personal n-aș dedica resurse ca să scot astea pe console, genul ăsta de jocuri.
Releasing not only cross-play, cross-progression, but also couch co-op. Now, I myself have actually played Path of Exile 2's couch co-op. I had a buddy fly all the way from Australia to LA when we did testing for Grinding Gear games. I have a full video breaking this down, which I will put at the end of the video in case you're interested in seeing this breakdown. But let me tell you this, the couch co-op in Path of Exile 2 is phenomenal, and in my opinion will pull in a much larger demographic of players. There's a lot of PC players, but there's also a significant amount of console players, and ARPGs are typically not games that go onto consoles. I think something that's understated typically in console games is the ability to play simultaneously with somebody, and that ability to do that without splitting the screen up. You see, Path of Exile 2 doesn't cut your screen up. It's one screen, and you also have tons of good quality of life. Like, we can both have our own inventories open. We don't have to wait for the other person to finish what they're doing on the menu.
What the fuck? Asta e crazy.
You can each have your own menus. This means when you're playing with somebody, it's not interrupting your gameplay. So Path of Exile 2's focus on couch co-op and console play, and also making sure at the same time that it's on the same server as a PC with cross-play, cross-progression, is going to bring in a large amount of players from outside their typical demographic. And all of that is before I mention the Path of Exile 2 is going to be free on console. This is a game that costs $0. Now, there are cosmetics you can buy. There are some quality of life like stash, inventory type of features, etc. you can get, but the game itself is going to be free. And with not very many good options on console for co-op couch play, and with a lot of people recently being introduced to this genre,
Îl fac câini afară. What the fuck? S-au auzit 5 câini deodată și chiar acolo.
I think Path of Exile 2's demographic is going to be significantly larger than Path of Exile 1's was.
Path of Exile's kind of got a reputation as a game of complexity. And this is something we want to make sure that we're... Path of Exile's kind of got a reputation as a game of complexity. And this is something we want to make sure that we're improving while also maintaining all the depth that we have. So we're making sure in PoE 2 that we've got a lot more systems around giving you more information.
They realize the Path of Exile 1 is a game that can be difficult to get into and loses a lot of players in the beginning. So now they're adding things like an in-game wiki, basically. When you don't understand what a word does, you can click on it in-game.
Să mor tu că... Wow.
And even on the console, it's going to show you a full breakdown of what it actually means. They also now have videos in the game that showcase the skills before you acquire them, so you know what they actually do. They have simplified some things in the game that will make it easier. For instance, sockets are no longer colored, so you don't have to worry about red, green, blue. All the sockets are the same color now. So in that aspect, there is a little bit less complexity. And it does seem like they recognize that and have...
Da, complexitatea au mutat-o altundeva, au mutat-o cumva în combat efectiv. Ceea ce mă rog, I mean, după preferință, știți? Da, mie mi se pare foarte ok. Hai să dăm un abonează totuși.
Have learned that lesson from the original Path of Exile. I've recently gone through the process of learning Path of Exile 1, and it was difficult to say the least. I haven't looked up anything. I don't know anything about the game. Jesus H. Christ. So I'm quitting the Path of Exile officially. This is too much. I like how this is the opposite of D4. So D4 doesn't have enough content, and it makes me want to quit. PoE has too much content, and it makes me want to quit. Can someone make something in the middle? The fact that I can say I'm 1,100 hours into Path of Exile 1 and I'm still considered new at the...
1100, deci 1100. Mama, a jucat ceva.
Game is something they don't want to have happen again with Path of Exile 2. And with Path of Exile 2, sending out closed beta invites. This is an NDA, basically a technical test is what it is to make sure they get the bugs out of it and make sure it's working with GPUs, etc. With those invites starting to go out, we're getting pretty close to Path of Exile 2 actually having a playable early access. Now there's another game that we need to talk about. There is an old school ARPG that has just recently released its gameplay footage for its new sequel that is coming out in 2024. Now we don't know much about this game yet. We did just get the gameplay footage. However, Gamescom...
Da, chiar bun contentul.
is soon, and we should be getting some more gameplay videos. Titan Quest 2 is obviously a sequel for the original Titan Quest that came out in 2006. That was a game that was then ported later on to mobile. It was sort of one of the original ARPGs. This is a Diablo-style hack-and-slash ARPG. It's not going to be sort of like No Rest for the Wicked, where it's slow or more Souls-like. This is a very standard ARPG style of game. And if you're curious in Titan Quest and you want to look into another game that's coming out in the future, you can play the original on Steam. So how about couch co-op with Titan Quest 2? Well, this is as of 2023, August 12th. There was a developer that made a post on the Steam forums. They said it's their plan to offer a LAN mode, but that they're probably going to have to make LAN characters. So basically, it sounds like couch co-op might be available, but might not be available in online mode. Now, we'll probably get more information about that here sooner, but this is the closest thing I was able to find around couch co-op. However, on the Xbox store, it does say online co-op to the fore. Now, whether or not that means local co-op going online or only pairing with other players, don't know, but that's all we know so far about local co-op. Either way, we're gonna have another ARPG join the ranks here very shortly. And then, of course, we have to talk about Last Epoch. Last Epoch is a game that sort of has a consumer-first mindset. Out of all the games mentioned today, Last Epoch is the only game that has a fully offline playable mode with all of the content in it. Unfortunately, it's not on console, but it is fully playable.
Wait, tot contentul n-are absolut nimic special online? Să mor tu. Asta e interesant, că mie nu-mi plac chestiile specifice online. Pentru că odată ce mor serverele, se decide să închide serverele, ceau. Bucățica de content nu mai poți să faci. Un exemplu acum, de exemplu, Warner Bros. Cum închid serverele, nu știu, era în Mad Max, o parte online în care făceai nu știu ce race-uri. Și un achievement pe Steam care era legat de race-urile alea, au închis serverele, nu mai poți să-l faci. Mulți au zis că are căcat un achievement, nu știu, pentru unii contează, mai ales dacă ai anumit nivel de OCD. Pe mine mă enervează când văd chestii de genul ăsta. Măcar înainte să le închizi, fă-le playable într-un anumit fel. Și pentru asta vă recomand tuturor să există petiția asta, multiplayer. Să vedem dacă o găsim rapid. Multiplayer Games Petition. Hai că am scris o petiție de Uniunea Europeană și mi se pare un început foarte bun. Unde ești, bă? Asta. Full Initiative. Support the Initiative. Da? Mai durează. Aproximativ mai 11 luni. Avem aici aproape 1, 2, 3, 4. De 7 țări trebuie să voteze minim și să se atingă total pragul ăsta de 1 milion de semnături. Acum nu știu ce să zic. 7 țări sigur se ating. Netherlands e super aproape atinge. Încă 2 mai trebuie pe lângă el. Mă mir că Franța, nu știu ce să zic, poate, Austria poate, și Danemarca 100%, și Belgia poate. Da, ăsta de 7 țări sigur cred că o să se atingă, Doamne ajută. Asta nu știu ce să zic cu astea. Trebuie să fie mai multe campanii de informare oamenilor. Coaie, luați și semnați că e foarte bună inițiativa, trebuie să se reglementeze așa ceva și poate se extinde mai multe zone. Odată ce am un joc multiplayer, acum evident o să fie și excepțiunile care pot să fie numai multiplayer. Da, în fine, n-ai ce să faci. Dar sunt multe care le-ar putea teoretic juca single player, de exemplu World of Warcraft, dacă exclus ultimul content din expansion, restul totul poate fi single player. Evident, e Battlefield, nu știu ce, mă rog, se găsesc variante, ori să scoți complet, ori să faci boți, ori nu-i dăcă. Dar pe ceva, adică nu închid serverele, gata, a murit totul. Mai ales pentru jocuri în care plătești subscripție tu. Ai plătit nu știu câți ani. Da. Asta e dezavantajul corporatismului și de-aia ar trebui să vină statele cu legislație care să sprijine consumatorii. Că sprijini mai mult consumatorul, cu atât mai bine. Din punctul meu de vedere, nu cred că este un punct în care să-i dai mult prea multe drepturi consumatorului față de producător. Da, eu așa cred. Deci nu știu dacă se dau mai tare microfonul sau nu. Nu sunt foarte hotărât. Lasă așa momentan cu game-ul ăsta și testăm.
Playable on Steam Deck, and while the game has hit its full release, it still has a lot of content that is needed within the game, but I think they bought themselves some time by having a fair price point and also putting out a
Wow, content roadmap, mamă ce bine arată. Îmi place artwork, îmi plac chestiile astea organizate. Draci. Arpinicios am văzut, Uncover Secrets of Terra's Ancient Past. Explore Lost Realities, Preserved in Time. Unlock your skills through protection, introducing skill signals. Inspirat din Path of Exile.
shows what they're planning to develop, so you don't just feel like the game is purchased or done, nothing's coming. They actually show you.
Cred că tatuz le-au eliminat totuși mie. Păi. Asta cu replaces. Settlers League, ce era aia? Settlers of Calgur, am înțeles. Mișto. Da, chiar e mișto. Direct.
A long ways out what they're developing. And some of those developments have already hit. For instance, we had the second cycle come out recently that added the Harbingers as well as the Pinnacle boss to the game. So I think it's going to follow a similar process like Path of Exile 1, where every one of the different cycles, as they call them, is their version of seasons or leagues. They're going to add more and more and more content, which will build up that base level of players. And I'll admit, I want to see them do good because it's a smaller team. They seem to be very fair with the price. They do seem to have that consumer-first mindset. I like the fact that they added the offline mode, and they generally just seem to be pretty good guys over there. As more people are coming into the genre through games.
Da, sunt... Există chestia asta de remove content? Ok. Da, chiar am Path of Exile. Știu că au scos multe mecanici. Da. Și asta cu scosul ei. Înțeleg de ce scot, că tot fac polishing. Dar ar fi mișto cumva contentul să-l revizitezi. Era mișto la un moment dat că chiar făcuseră asta. Cred că fix înainte să apară campania mare, Fall of Riot sau ce, nu. Riot, nu mai știu cum se numea. Când au scos și a doua jumătate a Path of Exile-ului, practic au terminat toată campania. Era o ligă cumva care le incorpora pe toate și puteai să le amesteci, nu știu, era cam crazy, dar ar fi interesant să mai fac ceva de genul ăsta. Mamă, 12 character classes, mâncați așa. Mamă, da, e superb site-ul făcut. Deci arată superb.
Games like Diablo 4 and what will be Path of Exile 2. Last Epoch is that middle ground between somewhat simple to understand and easy to access and extremely complex and overwhelming. Last Epoch hits that middle ground very well. The skill trees are fairly intricate. There's a lot of builds you can actually do. There's some complexity behind it, but it's also simple enough to understand. So it's a nice middle ground for people that maybe don't like the easy to access ones, or don't like the games that are way frustratingly, overwhelmingly complicated. So while I don't believe the Last Epoch is going to be the largest ARPG almost at any point, I think it's going to be hard for it to compete with names like Diablo and also, you know, development practices like Path of Exile. That the amount of content they're able to produce is ridiculous in Path of Exile, for instance. I do think Last Epoch is going to garner a fairly significant population of consistent players that like that healthy middle ground and like what Last Epoch has to offer. So going into 2025, I think we're going to see Last Epoch go from a game that maybe doesn't have as big of a player base to a much wider player base by the end of 2025. So that's about it for this video. My argument that we are currently in the golden era of ARPGs, or are just now entering it. Consider liking if you like the video, subscribing if you want to see more of me. And
da. Bun video. Vă recomand să dați subscribe la el. Mișto omul. I-am dat, nu?
If you are an ARPG...
Da, e ok. Păi hai să băgăm... Hai să băgăm niște Darksiders, bă. Chiar am chef de niște Darksiders. Ia să dăm aici game. Nu știu audio, că să-l țin. O să-l țin la... O să-l țin la minus 15 decibeli.